Alright, today we're going to do a oil pan gasket replacement. That is going to require to change the oil. It's a good time to do it. So the things you're going to pretty much need is a 14 millimeter socket for the oil pan plug, a 10 millimeter socket for all the bolts and nuts that are holding the pan onto the engine. Of course, your oil, I'll be using 5W30 full synthetic high mileage, just because it has some conditioners in it that it helps your engine out. And your oil filter, and I'm going to be replacing the oil cap with a new one. And of course, you need your gasket. I'm using a cork style gasket on here. Also need some ultra black gasket maker from Permatex. That stuff works really well, just because it's maximum oil resistance. So, but anyway, back to the oil pan. This oil pan is not leaking, but it's just a matter of time that it will. So it's just part of that maintenance I'm kind of going through on this car. Of course, the other thing you're going to need is an oil pan. And so we'll pretty much get started here. Just one thing to point out, there's your oil filter here. Depends who installed it. I believe Firestone installed this. It says Firestone on the oil filter, so I figured Firestone did it. You usually should be able to screw these off by hand. Wearing some gloves to get maximum grip. If you don't, you need some type of oil wrench. The best way to attack it with one of these is from the bottom. But if you got the wrench style ones, that'll work as well. So let's get started. We'll go down underneath and start draining the oil. Alright, so I got it centered up here on the plug. Just going to go down here and crack it loose. And I'm just going to let that drain for quite a while, since we're removing the pan. There'll be quite a bit of oil inside of it afterwards. It's always good to probably run your engine, let it idle for a good minute before draining your oil, if you're just doing an oil change. But since I'm doing the full thing, I didn't wear up the engine. So now we'll go on top. Let this drain, let it do its work, and we'll go remove the oil filter. Alright, so removing the oil filter, I'm going to try to do it by hand. I like to use rubber gloves. It gives me more grip. If this was installed correctly, I should be able to twist this off with no problem. Before I do that, I'm going to get some rags. I'm going to slip these right underneath the oil filter, because if any oil spills out, it actually creates quite a mess. There's no real good way of actually containing it. I do have the pan below just in case, but just anything I can soak up, because I already cleaned down here, and I don't want to clean again. So let me see if I can fit my hand in here and turn it. Oh yeah, I got it loose. I'm going to spin it as fast as I can. And now she comes. That looks fairly clean. Next, I'm going to go in here with another towel and make sure our surfaces are fully clean for the new oil filter. I was lucky this car has been sitting long enough where the oil's already drained out of the filter, so it didn't create a mess. Alright, so we're good there. So I'm going to go ahead and get our new filter. So I'm going to go down here, I'm going to install it. Alright, so basically what I want to do here, since I'm wearing gloves, I'm not going to use any tools or wrenches on this. You want to get it kind of, you want to get it hand tight as far as you can possibly go to get it tight. So trust me, it would seal up and it'll be a whole lot easier your next oil change. I've seen people put a wrench on this and go crazy on it. It's not needed. You do not have to do that. The oil filter is not going anywhere. It's not going to rattle loose as long as you have it tight. And that's it there. So we're going to wait for the oil to drain, and we'll go back down there and start removing that pan. Alright, so the oil's finally done dripping out here, and I went ahead and put the plug back in. Now it's time to remove all the bolts and nuts that hold the pan up to the engine. Beforehand, I apologize for the background noise. It's windy out today, and it's kind of creating quite a ruckus here in the garage. I'm going to be using a power tool just to release these, just to make it quicker, because there's quite a few nuts and bolts we got to remove. Alright, so I finally got this pan cleaned up. It took a while, so I took my time doing it. At the beginning of the video, I originally said that I was going to use a quart gasket, and after seeing the design of the pan, I decided not to trust this gasket at all. So I'm going to go ahead and scrap that. I'm going to end up using this stuff right here all the way around the rim. I think this will probably give me a much better seal than using that gasket. I went ahead and cleaned up all of the bolts as well. So those are nice and clean. One thing you want to check at this point is your drain plug. And what I'm going to end up doing is using something totally, I'm going to use something totally different. They had this washer that they were using for it. I'm not going to use this washer. I'm going to end up upgrading to this this rubber one instead. So one I just picked up off the shelf. So I'm going to use this instead. I think it'll give me a better seal. So just let that start. I'll torque it down once we get it back on the vehicle. So I'm going to start. So what I did is you have to clean the whole entire rim all the way off clean. I did it by using the scraping wheel. Worked pretty good to get all the silicone off of here. After that, I went and with a towel sprayed it with brake clean to make sure my surface is all the contaminants are taken off of it. So Also on the transmission, I've already gone down there and scraped everything off. I just used a razor blade and then went back with the brake cleaner on the cloth and cleaned it all up. So that's ready to go. It's just a matter of running a bead here, and we'll get it installed. And so once it compresses back onto the engine, all this is going to spread out, so I'm not worried about it. Just so long as you spread a pretty thick bead, you'll be okay. One thing to note before we go back to the car, I am switching over to a 1/4-inch ratchet. This is so I don't over torque the pan down. Keep in mind we're going into aluminum, and we're going in with aluminum nuts and bolts, so it's going to be very easy to strip these. I think the spec is something really low, like 90 inch-pounds. Don't quote me on that, but it's something really tiny like that. So even using a 3/8 inch ratchet, it's way too much torque, and you run the risk of actually stripping everything out, and that's not what we want. Also, once we go down there, I'm going to hand tighten. I'm not going to use a wrench yet. I'm going to hand tighten everything just like this and get everything set. I'm going to wait 1 hour, and after that hour, then I'm going to come back and use the wrench and torque everything down. And when we're doing that, we're going to do a cross pattern. And so we're going to start. We'll start with the nuts first because those go on the studs. So it gives us a perfect guide to get this pan back on. So we'll put the nuts on first. If I remember correctly, there's one that's going to sit right here and one that's going to sit right here, so it balances everything out. You can kind of get it hand tight with that, and then we can go around with the nuts. Or not the nuts, the bolts. So let's get down there. Alright, so it's been a little bit over 24 hours. I think our gasket on our oil pan has sealed by now. Now it's time. I think it's safe enough to go ahead and change and refill the oil. Now I did buy a new oil cap from AutoZone. This one had a crack in it. It's still sealed, but I just don't like the fact that we had a crack in it. But So I got a new one here. The only issue that I saw with it, looks like it's a very nice seal. The only thing I saw wrong with it for this car, if you notice the difference, one says 10W30, the other one says 5W30, and looks like the lettering is not so greatly printed on these, but it's going to do the job and it looks new, so it'll work. Close it up. There we go. Goes new. So we'll go ahead and I usually wait and I'll check again. But just first off, because I know some oil is going to get stuck here in the up in the valves. But I'll go ahead and check our level now. And you won't be able to tell, but we're up at the right at the full point, so we should be good to go there. That pretty much wraps up this video. Thank you for joining me. Please like, subscribe, and share for me, please. And we'll keep moving along. Until the next one, thanks for watching.